Hello and welcome. My name is Tremaine Hayho, and today we have a very special guest on this new Filmmaker Friends podcast. My good friend Elisabeth Steen-Nokleberg, actress, writer, filmmaker, cool person. Welcome.
Thank you, Tremaine.
So you have made a new movie. Let's hear about it. Let's talk about it.
Let's do it. It's called Heart of the Home.
Heart of the Home. Yes. Okay. So
And as you know, one of the stars in it.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. I have a role in this cool movie called Heart of the Home.
It's my original story. So I basically gave the whole story to my co-writer. She wrote it and I rewrote it. So it's a collaboration team. Sammy Sonetti, she did a great job. And also in terms of directing, David Palmieri was a cinematographer and director. However, what I did, I rehearsed with all the actors. I kind of did the acting part of it. That's what I kind of worked on before we shot it. So it was, when it's a small project like this, it becomes a collaboration. Everybody does a little bit of everything.
David was really awesome. Met David. He's shot and directed a ton of stuff. Tell me about where this idea came from. What is this movie about?
Okay, well, the whole idea started with, I'm an actor. I never planned. I never had a desire to make any movies. I just wanted to get the part and, be on TV, be in big feature motion production movies and all that stuff. And of course, I didn't get to those parts. I got a lot of really interesting, cool indie films like yours, RIDESHARE, where I met you. Love doing those kind of films. But I always thought, I want to show myself a little more. I want to have bigger roles, And then I actually went for a couple of auditions to Filmmaker producers. I started asking them how they went about creating everything themselves. And they told me, and that's when I got a hold of my co-writer, because I have these ideas in my head, but I didn't. Now in the future, I will be writing my own movies. But to start with, I just had this idea of a film, and in this case, it was something that happened. It was based on reality. It was this bizarre roommate situation that I lived in. So but it was more also like to manage to create something to showcase myself, because I felt I didn't have the opportunity to do it. So that could either open other doors, or I would also get into the production part. That's how it all started. And I just kind of fell into it. And my good friend Madeleine, who is in your movie RIDESHARE, she decided to make her own movie. And that kind of inspired me thinking, if she can do it, why can't I do it,
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. And that's what's so cool. Yeah. Shout out to Madeleine Wade, a really cool friend of ours as well. You two were obviously friends before RIDESHARE. And then since RIDESHARE, we've all, you made a movie, she made a movie, Curtis from RIDESHARE made a movie. Like, we're all making more movies. I mean, I don't want to say I sparked the fire or anything like that, but maybe I kindled some flames. But I've been inspired by my friends who made movies before me. So it's like, it's kind of this, and that's why, like, in other podcast situations, or just like being able to talk about these new films, I'm like, well, I have all these cool friends that are making cool movies. So, that's why it's so cool talking to you right now about all this.
And I think also, like, honestly, being in your movie also was very inspiring for me to take the chance myself, because it was your first script and you told me your process. And I really decided, other people are making the leap and they're getting awarded, and that's opening doors for other movie projects, But if not, it's also very fulfilling to create your own thing beyond the little area that you think you're capable of, like, if, let's say you want to be a director, now you realize you can act also, you can also write, or like for me, I'm a storyteller. I always been it my whole life, but I thought acting was my medium only, and now I like casting and producing and the whole thing. So, it just, you have to expand yourself and think outside the box. I think by creating your movie, you get the chance to do that,
Yeah. And that's what's cool, because a lot of actors don't, they don't really, it doesn't really click with them. I mean, if they're solely actors, like, hey, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. But especially today with the accessibility of really high quality cameras and film equipment, I mean, like, I personally, I started out as an actor and I loved acting. I was in all the school plays and everything, but it was about, like, I always hated the audition process. I'm like, how do I bypass this whole process, and it was like 7th or 8th grade. I'm like, well, if I just started making the videos myself, then I can just put myself in it. Then I don't have to audition, So like, I think that's the.
I am one of those actors. I couldn't stand auditioning. I went on as little auditions as possible. I had one manager in New York City, and I never tried to really get an agent. I'm not an ass kisser, so I really suck at the business part,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, see, and that's the thing is like, I'm not really like that. I'm not like that either. It's like, and I think a lot of people have this misconception thinking like, oh, if I want to be an actor, first, like the first thing they think of is, oh, I need a manager and an agent. It's like, you don't even know what a manager or an agent does. 2, why don't you just look for your own damn work yourself? 3, why don't you just start acting? And like, it's like, it's stuff that frustrates me so much with a lot of actors, or at least a lot of new actors. I mean, maybe they just don't understand, but like new actors, like the first question is, how do I get an agent? It's like, how do I get a manager? It's like, no, gosh damn it. Like,
I feel the same way. And also, especially when you begin, like you cannot get a really good agent unless you have good credits, or unless you're 21 starting out and they really believe you're the next whatever.
Right. But it's like, especially if you've done nothing, you have nothing to show. And then you're like, you want a manager and an agent. What do you, and then you expect them to just like call you up saying, hey, you have this new gig on CBS. It's like, no, it's like,
it's not happening. And also, funnily enough, most of the indie films that I did after I moved to LA, they all went through agents. I went indirect. And I told myself the right opportunities will come in the right time. I know this is like, you have to really trust the process of a lot of things in life. But I gave up on the agencies, and also like, but then I ended up making movies where everybody else came in through an agent, and I did not, because I got them through breakdowns, myself, like everybody else. You can do it yourself.
So do you have an agency now? Like, are you part of casting websites? Or are you doing, do you still do stuff like that?
I am. I go against the grain in everything I do. So my plan was, after I finish Heart of the Home, and I might still do that. I will go to. It's in copyright right now. It's almost finished. So, but once it's out, I will go to better agencies, and now I don't have to be the beggar. Like, oh, please take me, represent me. Now it's gonna be more this. I make my own movies. I do this on my own. I plan on making many more. This one is in the work. What can we do together? What kind of auditions can you send me out of? If they cannot send me out on anything better that I've done so far, I don't need it. I'd rather make my own project.
Totally, yeah. And you're more choosing them versus them choosing you. Right?
Absolutely. So just change the whole dynamic, and I think that's what, and I changed too, because I used to be more desperate. I used to be more frantic, and I think they can sense that desperation. Now it's more confidence. Now it's like, okay, well, oh, you made the movie, I make movies, or you can get me on those kind of movies. Okay, great.
One of my favorite phrases is like, you can't hire someone to do your push-ups for you. So it's like, you got to still put in the work. You've got to put in the time. You've got to put in, like, you can't expect this manager to just show up and like be, especially if you're one of like 50 clients that they have, to be like cold calling all these like shows like, hey, can you get my, my actress? Can you book my, can you audition? So, I think that's why people like you that are like, well, screw it. Like, I'm just going to make my own movie and give myself the role that I want to play.
Because I yet have to go on one audition that was better than the part that I created for myself. And and the next movies will, and of course I think about the whole movie. It's not about me, it's about all the actors and all the characters, of course. But the parts that I create for myself are the ones that I wish that I would be casted.
And that's the thing, is like, it seems like such a kind of a simple thing. Oh yeah, well yeah, why don't you just cast yourself? But it's like, you don't really realize that you could, sometimes you don't really know, oh, I could just give myself this role and then I could just play it, and and nobody's gonna tell you no. It's like, should I fire myself? It's like,
But I mean, talked about that when I was in pre-production, because I was late to every meeting. I'm like, dang, I should have fired myself, but hey.
Well, that's another thing. It's like, you can't, you've got to like make sure that you don't get too comfortable with yourself. It's kind of like that familiarity thing. It's like, when you get too familiar with people, like they get kind of comfortable, or you get kind of, it's like, that's why they say you don't go into business with friends sometimes or whatever because they're too comfortable with situations. I don't know, but that's the whole thing. You can still have to kind of discipline yourself a bit and make sure that you're doing your thing and trying your best. But it takes a lot of that pressure off, though. I remember I was a production assistant on this VH1 show. It was like this all night shoot, and they were paying me like bare minimum for a PA. Like I think like it was like $100 a day or $125 a day. And I asked them for like, I'm like, well, my PA rate's $150, like a whole $25 more than what they were paying. This is a VH1 show shot in a mansion in Malibu. Okay. And they're like, oh, sorry, we don't have the budget for it. It's like we had catered steak for lunch and everything. Like they had the freaking money. And I was just like kind of getting at the tail end of trying to, working other gigs on other film sets and everything. And like, it didn't even matter if it was like a huge film set, a big budget production. It sucks. Like when you're just a tiny cog in the wheel, like working your ass off for this other show, this stupid reality show, that you don't really care about. And I mean, look, I'm grateful for these opportunities, but it was weird because I ended up, I had to show up to set at 3 a.m. Right. And I was on set earlier that day for like a full 12 hours, and I had set my alarm and everything. And I overslept and I woke up like an hour and a half late, and I got all these texts, all these emails, like basically chewing me out. And then it's like, don't even bother coming out. And I'm like, thank God, like screw this. Like I didn't need to. And it was like, from there, I was like, okay, I have to shift my focus from trying to be a tiny production assistant on other gigs to being a producer on my own thing, and going like scrounging for freaking $125 for 12 hours, like PA work. Like that's a lot of work. And also a few days after that, I'm like, okay, I want to produce stuff. A few days after that, I had a check for $3,000 to produce a music video. So, it's just like, it completely shifted the focus. It's like, okay, well, I could direct and edit. Why don't I just do that? And I could get paid to do that. And now I can get paid more to do those things, so anyway.
I think it's good you say that, because I think also, for me, it was always about the artistic passion, the higher calling of the acting, right? But then, well, first of all, again, but like I said before, I didn't get to play the parts that I wanted. But also, let's face it, the possibility of financial rewards is also important, especially when you get older, because you want to make a career. Most actors do it from their heart, and they do all these projects, like you said. We work 12 hours for $100. You got to buy an outfit. I got to blow dry my hair. There's actually minus $50 at this point,
Right, totally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then heaven forbid you park, and then like I've been on set, and then like they have parking, and then they gave me an illegal parking ticket, even though they said I didn't move my car when I did move my car. It was so stupid. It's just stuff like that when you're like,
you don't make any money when you do these low budget things,
Yeah, right.
And even also, I dated a guy once he was on a lot of big TV shows, and he gave me realistic insight. $800 for a day player on a TV show, right? Which is great, but you only did it for like one sentence or whatever. But half of it goes to your agent, then you got to pay taxes. You're not really left with anything. And again, there's only so much creativity in how are you, you know what I mean? So I think making your own project, you're making a leap because you have the possibility as a producer to actually create more income, which we all deserve. I think that's really important. You just more creativity. And when you have that creative freedom and no pressure, you perform much better too, because you're free in your artwork, which it's all about.
And yeah, you feel more rewarded, like you're doing something that's worthwhile, or you're really contributing, or you're really putting all your effort into it. It's like, yeah, okay, if you have one line on a sitcom, that's actually really cool, and you could say that line all you want, and you make decent money for the amount of time you go on there. But there's, I think it's that longer term thinking where it's like, okay, if I am going to take a pay cut, it's going to be on something that I'm doing on my own. It's going to be something that is going to eventually pay off. Like even if the movie's not a blockbuster smash hit right off the bat, it's like, look, like you produce a freaking feature film and you did one, and the beauty of it is you could always make another movie, So.
Yeah, and And, you know, and I'll tell you something, two filmmakers that I personally knew, one, I was in two of his films, with Madeleine, actually. And then another friend of mine who was an actor who made a lot of short films. Rest in peace, they both passed away.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
And they moved, and pretty young guys, also both of them, for different. One had a heart attack, the other one had cancer.
Oh my gosh,
that's horrible. What I mean, we have to respect that they both did what they really believed in and were passionate about. They both loved their acting and making film. One guy, his talent in his movies can be questioned. The other one didn't have any money. He did the lowest budget short films you can imagine. But you know what? They did it, and they left it after them. And I think that's really important, especially for us who are true artists. It's so meaningful to our soul and who we are, you know?
That is the beauty of something, whether you're an actor or a filmmaker or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's like we all, unfortunately, will die at some point. And, you know, your work lives on, though. Like your work, you know, yeah. That, you know, that's kind of a dark thought. It's like if I die, I have so many more movies left in me. Like I don't want just RIDESHARE or the Bachelor Party episodes 1 and 2.
Same here. And also, it's funny because I listened to your podcast interview yesterday, and I thought the same thing. Like, Heart of the Home is my start. I love it. It's my firstborn little baby, right? It's good. It can definitely be perfected a couple of places, but all over for, you know, first movie and also shot in 6 days. Absolutely great, you know?
That's super impressive.
But Heart of the Home is the beginning. Now I know better because I didn't know anything about anything except from acting, basic directing, and storytelling. Now the next movie that I'm co-writing, same principle. It's my story. Sammy's writing it. I'm rewriting it, and it will be a similar project, fewer actors, because again now for the next film, I'm always thinking budget. If I would a big budget at this point. Well, first of all, it wouldn't have been shot because for me to find investors, some people have the ability, like you did for RIDESHARE. I do not necessarily have that because I'm a very stubborn person. I don't like to ask anybody for anything in life. I just walk in life. That's how I am. So I have to make very low budget films so I can afford to make my own films, you know?
Yeah.
And also it's so that if I fail, you know what? I lost what I had, but it wasn't that much, you know? Moving on to next.
Well, that is another, and I admire that quality about you because when you lose, if you lose your money. You're not losing other people's money, and that's what's kind of a huge thing. Like, you know, with RIDESHARE is we're still trying to earn that money back, and it's awkward, to be honest. It's awkward. So, and I feel really, you know, I have a lot of guilt and shame over everything, but I did say you do make it clear. You make it clear. You make it clear to the investors, like saying, hey, I don't want you to break the bank. There's a very high likelihood for you to lose all your money, you know, all the money that you're putting in, not all your money, but all the, you know, the money that you're putting in. So you know, but that's the thing though. It's like, I don't want you to limit yourself though, Elisabeth, because because for me, I was thinking like, okay, well, I could just work my ass off, get a couple jobs, like save up, and then I can make the movie. But I'm like, if I'm going to try to get, you know, take some time and doing other things and I'm not focusing on the movie. And it's like, it's kind of like when other people want to make the movie, you know, you got to realize people want to make movies, but they don't have the ability. They want to be part of Hollywood, but they don't know where to start, but they have a couple $100 lying around. I mean, think about how far you stretched your dollar. You know, we could talk about budget. We could not talk about budget, but
absolutely. And for the future, I have also changed my perception. I think just like a film, the script will evolve and change as you go through it. You know, everything else. Simply like also, the next film will be even lower budget than The Heart of the Home. But from there on, I am absolutely looking into investors, and the next film I'm writing thereafter will be a little bit bigger budget. Also.
That's awesome because especially the first couple movies, and I'm thinking the same approach for me for my next movie, like very shoestring budget. I'm just putting in all the money on my own, very limited actors, couple locations, couple actors, building the story, building the experience, building the filmmaking aspect first. Yeah, and I think that is a great tip for a lot of filmmakers, is that a lot of other filmmakers think that like, oh, well, I need $10 million to make my movie. It's like, thing is, they never make their movie because they never get the money, because no one's going to give you $10 million to someone that's never made a damn thing before in their entire life.
And, you know, and like you said about RIDESHARE, it's considered extremely low budget, really looking at, you know, other movies, you know?
Oh yeah, I always laugh. I always laugh like because I was looking at an interview with Clint Eastwood, and he's like, yeah, he's like back in those days, he's like talking about I think the '60s when he was like first starting making movies. He's like, yeah, my first movie was a really low budget. It was $600,000, and and I'm like, dude, and then I was watching a Mel Gibson thing, and he was like, yeah, and like Braveheart, all we had was I think he said all we had was $75 million in 100 days to make the movie. I'm like, dude, like, are you joking me? But that's almost like, wow, if they're like only $75 million, only 100 days. Could you imagine 100 days to make your movie?
But the nice thing, Tremaine, is that when people like us who like me, I made Heart of the Home for and we shot in 6 days. I basically wore literally all hats, and there's a few other people on board too, but I worked my ass off. So how much can you expect from me? I mean, seriously, come on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, totally. And that is another thing. It's like, it's so funny. Like, it's so funny doing the research and learning every single thing that I looked at, because I was trying to figure out my budget. Every single thing that I found, or a lot of advice that I heard was like, whatever you think your budget is, times it by 2.5.
Yeah.
At least times it by 2. Yeah, they always say that. And it was funny because my initial was $20K for RIDESHARE. And so that was what I was looking at. I'm like, well, to times it in a half would have to be 50K. But I'm like, I don't really want to raise 50 grand. So I raised 20 grand. I ended up putting in at least 10 grand of my own money, and then ended up putting in over time another 10 grand of my money. And then I had to do a Kickstarter for the post-production audio cleanup and 5.1 surround sound. And that ended up being another 10 grand. So it ended up being exactly $50,000, like to the 2.5 times of what the initial number was. So it's so funny. Like, and I was just kind of like, wow. But then it's like, well, if your budget, if I thought my budget should have been 50K, would it have ended up being what, $125,000? It's like, I don't know. For you and you figuring out your budget, how did you go about figuring out your budget? And are you comfortable talking about this too? Because sometimes, like, I'm just now kind of learning. I'm just now becoming comfortable with talking about it, because it's been some time. I'm a bit more detached from.
I'm very comfortable because, like I said, I think an interview like this can maybe help other people who want to start out themselves, So absolutely, I feel comfortable talking about it. And it's been a struggle. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not one of those people who's just like, oh yeah, it's so easy to make a movie, dang,
Right. What bugs me is that if someone's like, oh yeah, I want to make a movie and I can't wait for the premiere and being in film festivals and getting all these awards, it's like, you are so far away from any of that. Like,
I know, and then there's also money, because you got to submit, that costs money. Then if you got to show up in person, then you got to travel, it costs money. So but the way I look upon it, start small, and then you can always grow, or you can show your work, and then you can get more money in. So for my first movie, I decided 3 locations, very few actors, just the story very simple, just have it more dialogue and story focused. Because I've seen a lot of really good movies where the most riveting moments are not necessarily when you see a great scenery, it's the actor, and I'm an actor, so it's like the internal things. I said, I'm going to really just focus on a really good and entertaining story, good acting, and the rest will be whatever it is. And also I was lucky because the story is just about a simple apartment, and with roommates living in a cheap apartment. They can't afford to live anything square better, so they are sharing this, making this 2-bedroom into a 3-bedroom. So it kind of worked. Everything was kind of created in the script to make it low budget. But still, you have to have a good cinematographer, director, again, script writer, the actor's going to get paid. I have worked so much for free in my life. I want to pay the talents for their time.
Yeah, and that's what I want to acknowledge you for, that, because you made a very good point. You wrote me a check the day of when I was there. Like, you really respected your actors, because I think what it's like to be on the other end of the spectrum when people are like, oh yeah, they give you like, oh, I'll give you a net 30 or net 60, or some projects you never get paid, and you know, or it's like you do all this free stuff and then they don't even feed you, or they don't even give you coffee, you know. And it's like,
yeah. And
like,
I've been in a couple of short films where, you know, I knew that necessarily the film wasn't going to go anywhere, but they still paid me. And I didn't have to get paid. And the gratitude and also my willingness to do a better job by getting paid those $100. Again, like I said, even though I bought an outfit for that, or blow drying my hair, or like whatever, I spend those $100. It's just the principle that you're being paid. You feel better about yourself when you're being paid. So you have more self-respect. And I want the actors to feel like they are very important, which they are.
yeah, absolutely. You don't want to take them for granted. There's these big YouTubers that talk about that, and they say, you know, you have like a minimum what you're going to pay someone, but there's sometimes if it's too low, it's almost worse. You know, it's like if they were to offer you like, hey, be in my short film, I'll give you like $25, and it's like, I'd rather just work for free or whatever. But it's like, you know, I don't know. There's that kind of thing. It's like, well, as long as if you're starting out and you're not getting paid, but you have to at least feed people and you have to give them gas money or something. If it's like, hey, $25 for gas, okay. When you pay someone an actual day rate, even if it's like a lower, like even if it's $100, like, you know, minimum, people appreciate that and they take it more seriously. And it's like, I've tried to pull favors, trying to get people to be in stuff for free. And it's like, unless it's a silly YouTube video that we're only going to shoot for less than an hour, like I don't want to bring myself to do that. Like, and people don't take it as seriously, you know, when they're not.
They don't, you know, and also because I'm an actor and I'm a very academic actor. I have 2 master's degrees in acting. I studied acting straight for 10 years. I spent a fortune on my acting classes. I believe that good acting is so important. So I was and you know yourself how demanding I was with people's performance. I kept rehearsing and going over everything. And, you know, before, like plenty of times, and just being able to do that, I consider myself lucky, because a lot of filmmakers, especially indie films, actually show up and you have to be ready. I worked with everybody, I rehearsed them, I directed them before. That was a lot of work. So I think even what I paid was, you know, I paid what I could, you know, in the budget, and everybody did a really good job and they need to be paid for that. But at the same time, I don't say it's wrong to start out where nobody gets paid. It's better. And, you know, you can always, on those projects, you can always split the back end more, you know. I didn't want anybody on the back end except from David and Sammy. So because this is my opportunity to create something for myself, so I rather want to pay everybody a fair amount, you know?
Totally. Yeah, totally. And that's a smart way of doing it. And when you're, and also like being able to shoot something in 6 days where you're paying them for their time, but it's not like, even if it's not a huge day rate, like it's not a whole lot of time investment. So it's like, it's a fun, cool thing if you're there for a couple of days as a character. For me, I was there, I think 2 days, right? Or 2 half days, or yeah, like that was really cool. Like swing by, you know, come on, you know, be on set, and that was a lot of fun. And
right on me. I fell for. You said I'm in San Diego. I forgot. I was like, oh no.
Oh yeah, that's right. I pranked you. I was like, yeah, I'm going to San Diego. I
was like, holy shit.
I forgot about it.
I trust you, but you never know with actors. Oh dang, I'm on the beach in San Diego.
Yeah, the stuff I've heard. Oh my gosh, like from actors where they space out, or they'll say like, oh, my grandma's, you know, sick, and it's like, I would, if they were legitimately sick, like, you know, that's terrible. You know, I loved my grandma, and you know, but like the amount of times I've heard that, it's like, okay, or family emergency, like, oh, family emergency, you know.
But you know, also sometimes things happen. You know, Madeleine was supposed to play the part of Rachel in Mama, but she had a punctured lung, and I wanted somebody to scream. So last minute, 2 weeks before I think it was 1 or 2 weeks before we started shooting, I had to find a new cast somebody else. And you know, so that those things happen too. At last minute, something, you know. That's
true. Yeah, no, some actual things have happened, or people get in a car accident before, which is terrible. Like I remember, I was so stressing out for my second movie. I was backing up and I like turned my wheel, and I was backing out of a parking space at my friend's apartment, and there was a pole there, and I like scraped the side of my car on, you know, so yeah, so stuff like that, where it's like, you know, and that's also kind of a reminder where it's like, look, we're making a movie. This isn't like brain surgery. This isn't like like, you know, it isn't life or death. I'm sorry. Like, I love movies more than, you know, more than most people. But I'm not going to try to say that it's a life or death situation. I'd rather someone show up an hour later, you know, if it be safe, rather than try to like rush or, you know.
Thank God for my movie that most actors were more than willing. They really wanted to play this part, you know. And also, one thing I want to say about the 6-day shot, this is where ignorance is bliss comes in. I haven't made a movie before, so I didn't know 6 days was too little. It was initially supposed to be. It was initially supposed to be 5 days, and but then we had to add one more day, and I wanted to add even more days because I realized, dang, you know, like this is going way too fast. We keep losing like things like that we need to get done, or like scenes that could have been reshot. You can't do it, you know. So when you have 5-6 days to shoot, whatever it is, you know.
Yeah. Wow.
And
yeah.
He kind of warned me about that. He did tell me that we will, whatever happens, you know, like we're just going to breeze through it. So that's why I was so stressing so much to rehearse with all the actors before, so that it was like a live theater performance. It was just like, bang, we went through it. And whatever happened. Some scenes I look back and I'm like, you know what? Could have been better, this and that, but you know what it was for the time we had, you know.
That was something that I realized as well was when we had a 16-day shoot for RIDESHARE. It was a very like steady pace shoot. Luckily we weren't like really scrambling. We ended on time or early every single day, which was great. Still, I mean, we shot, you know, there was one day where we shot 16 pages in one day. You know, you probably shot how many pages? Like 16 pages every day, probably. Like 10.
One day we did like over 20 the first day. It was like so dialogue driven.
That is insane, guy. Like for anyone that doesn't know, like 20 pages is absolutely insane. like most Hollywood movies are lucky if they shoot 2 pages in one day.
Not Elisabeth Steen-Nokleberg's movie. We breezed through that stuff, and that's why. But most of those scenes, actually all scenes except from one scene. There was one scene with a lot of different actors, but they had just like quick lines, and then the rest was me and the 2 other main actors. And because we were so well rehearsed, we were able to do that. You know, and I thought I wouldn't be able to even say my lines at this point because I was so stressed with also, you know, being the producer and setting up everything else. But it went through, you know, it happened. And maybe I think my acting was better because of that, because I was so not in my head. I was like, whatever I say, you know?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about too, is that when you're like, for me, I gave myself a tiny bit part in RIDESHARE, and that for me, that was like enough. Like I had like a minute for like 2 minutes or something like that. But that was like excruciating, like thinking about, as a writer, the director, everyone's asking you a million questions. Then now I'm like dressed as a hobo and like trying to say lines and remember lines and everything. Like how the hell did you do that? First off, how did you do it? How did you remember your lines plus produce? And what was your biggest challenge with that? And how did you do it?
Well, what I decided 1 month before I started shooting it, I rehearsed my own lines, my own movie, my words and my experience with my acting coach privately, because I knew that there's no way I'm going to take the time to work on my own acting if I don't have somebody working on it for me, because I was that busy. It was 24/7. And like making a movie, there's so much in the details, and then, you know, you got to go places to get things, and then you got to email with people. There's so much work. There's so many assistants I would have liked to have had, and I didn't have them. So I made sure that my acting was down with my teacher. I made sure that everybody else's acting was down. But then on set, you know, it was so much to do. And especially on those days where I had to do emotional scenes. I'm crying, and another actor comes in with a donut. I'm not kidding. Into the room and starts looking at me and talking to me. I'm like, really? And then like people want the keys and this and that, and I have to create these crazy emotions. Now, most of the scenes in my movie are very like basic dialogue, it's comedic, and I also have lived it in real life. So because of that, the acting was much easier for me. But to get into those emotional places, you still have to you still have to do the prep work. And for one scene in particular, where I had to get really into my anger, I just told David, I'm out of here. And I went running around the block, and I just got into my own zone, because I was like, at this point, I'm not going to make a movie where my own acting stinks, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. And so like when you are as an actor, you have to bring up these emotions. And then not only that, it's like you went through this, it seems like a very traumatic event with this roommate you had.
And then I'm also at the same time, while I'm acting, I'm making sure the other actors are doing their thing. You know, it's just, it was overwhelming. But I think that intensively and the amount of workload made me just be in the moment so much that everything just floated. But I was so tired after shooting that movie that for days, I couldn't even walk. I was just like laying out flat. I was exhausted.
After RIDESHARE was funny, like we wrapped, I went to the movies. I went to go see the Lego movie. I'm like, oh, I just want to sit down and freaking watch a movie. I was watching the Lego, it was like the Lego Batman movie. And it was just me in the theater. It was like middle of the day, because we wrapped earlier in the day. Anyway, I'm watching the movie and I fell asleep, and I wake up and I'm watching the movie and I'm like, I've seen this part before already. I slept through the first screening of the movie, and I woke up halfway through the next screening of the movie in the theater. I was so tired. Like, yeah. And then
for my movie, like working with somebody like David was so important, because David was so focused. He didn't waste 1 minute. Like literally, when we had lunch break, it was half hour to the minute, and then it was over. And both him and I got and this is something that actors, I think, don't realize. You don't realize things sometimes until you're in the position yourself. How annoying it is when people start small talking, even if you're not shooting something right then, because you have so much on your plate for those days that you just want everything to be quiet so you can just work. But people are chatting and talking, wanting to get to know each other. We get it, but that was very, very distracting on my own set. And David almost lost it a couple of times himself, because you just have to respect the people that are working, you know?
Well, yeah, when there's small talk like that, I'm glad you brought that up. This is like pet peeve of mine as well. So there's small talk. Not only are you, one, ruining audio for the movie, two, you're completely distracting all the actors. Three, you're distracting the crew. Four, it's completely disrespectful. And the amount of times I yell on set, or you know, that's why it's like, I think when you're working with, you got to, you know, you choose who you work with, and hopefully you get professional actors that know how to shut the hell up when we're filming, you know, and you know, we had a little bit of a tough time, like when, because we did the Bachelor Party movie, and, you know, we needed like kind of extra type characters, and some of the like extras tend to talk, or they have their phone on, and then there's like the ring down, ding, 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 like halfway through a take, you know. So yeah, so explain to like your frustrations, like how you handle these frustrations, like what's like probably your biggest pet peeve, and how did you deal with it?
And you know, and that's also a thing, because again, I'm starting out too, and I'm an emotional, dramatic actor myself, and I lost it a couple of times. Actually, my boyfriend back then, he had to like say, "Listen, you need to relax, go for a walk, be grateful that the people project." Because I'm like, I can't believe this. Another person was trying to change the script, and I'm like, I don't think you would ask Tarantino to change the script. And then other people were just yappity, you know, like, and again, nothing, no bad intentions from anybody, but I think that people act out of their awareness. So I didn't sometimes I handle it well. I think I handled it better towards the end, but there were a couple of times where I lost it, because I'm like, you can't tell me that if you don't like my script, I'm sorry. I've done a million scripts I'm not crazy about, but I do what I'm being told to do, because that's what I'm being paid for.
Yeah, you know what you need for next movie, and I need this too. I haven't had the luxury of having one yet. Is you need an asshole assistant director. Like the assistant director, the AD is like allowed to be the asshole on set. That way they're the asshole, they're the jerks, like not you, you know. And then they can yell at the people to shut the hell up, and, you know, and do all that stuff. And, you know, but it's like, hey, when you're working with smaller budgets and stuff like that, you don't really have these types of luxuries. So you have to tell these people,
And
Yeah,
I
to
don't
be
think people
quieter.
take you as serious also. And I kept changing the script. And this is something I hope not to do again, but it's also part of the creative process. You know, the script kept changing so much that the writer just stopped. She couldn't even keep up with changing the script at the end, because each dialogues and everything kept changing. Like, because every day while I was shooting, I was getting all these ideas, and so I just went with it. I went with my intuition. I kept changing it. So I think
Interesting. Wow.
yeah. So like, it's totally different than the way the script was written. But sometimes like the whole scene changed. So I understand that some of the actors thought maybe because I kept changing things that they were entitled to jump in and change things also, you know? But that's not the case. So, but like I said, I think that next time I will handle it better. I definitely lost it a couple of times. I was very frustrated. It was just an overwhelming process, but I tried to take a breath and say, you know what, I have to be grateful that these people are here to help me create my vision, and everybody's working together. It's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of time. Everybody's getting stressed out, you know?
And that is another thing. It's like realizing everyone, like, hey, we're all on the same team here. You know, we're here to help. And, you know, you get stressed out. Like, I remember one time I was on set of a music video and we were looking for locations. I was getting like and we were way behind and we had to shoot these shots and we didn't find a location. We were looking for this location and couldn't find it, and everything was going wrong, it seemed like. And I got so mad. My phone was already, like, the screen was already broken, but I chucked my phone in the air and let it smash the ground. And it was kind of an excuse to get a new phone too, but I was so frustrated. And it was just like, you know, sometimes you just got to take those moments and realize, like, especially with rideshare, like, when, you know, hey, when you have money on the line, time, you know, like, all these things, all these factors, like, stress is a serious thing. So, you know, I think a healthy amount of stress and urgency is good. But
Yeah, definitely the money on the line, you know, like once it's your project and your money or money that you have gotten from other people who are relying on you, the pressure is different than just showing up for somebody else.
totally, yeah, and you kind of want to. There were times where I was kind of a jerk, but like, I was more, people would kind of would understand. They kind of understand where you're coming from. It's like, you know, if you're directing, you're the filmmaker. It's like, yeah, maybe I'm short with people, but they understand that it's like, I'm just doing it. Just, it's nothing against them. I'm just efficient with saying, you know, no, we don't need that. Doesn't need to happen.
So, and also that more than bad experiences, I had great experiences, because again, for instance, I didn't have a script supervisor, something I'm definitely going to have above anything else next time. So all of a sudden it was like, how were things, and we changed like the whole layout of the room, you know? And I had a lot of wigs, for instance. I didn't know which order it was in, but then later on, like, realized it didn't even get into the shot because the shot is so quick, so it didn't matter if I had the wigs or not. But people like the makeup artist all of a sudden was setting up, you know, the room and doing things, you know, like, so they were not supposed to. Everybody tried to really help, you know. And I had a wonderful production assistant, a Japanese girl that really wanted to be part of it, but had a lot of Japanese actors in that movie. She was so great, and she initially wanted to do it as an internship thing. I paid her because I think she worked harder than anybody. She got my food, my lunch, and those are the things that sound very simple. But when you're in the stress, it's a lot.
Oh,
like,
those are huge. Yeah.
I did my own catering. I was to Starbucks, so it's a 99-cent store, and you know, like, so she got to that, and I also the blood scene. She cleaned up the blood afterwards, and you know, like, organized and helped me out. So yeah, like, so the help I got was tremendous from those few people that were there too.
Well,
You know?
and that's the thing, is like, you got to understand, even if it is a skeleton crew, even if it is small budget and only a couple people, like, little help like that, or one person just doing those little things like that, it helps so much. Because especially when you're the co-writer plus producer plus acting in it, you don't have time to go get food. You don't have time to call the pizzeria. You don't have time to, and you shouldn't be doing that. You know, that's not like some producers' role, but you got to be able to leverage that, or trust someone else to do that, and take care of those things.
I did that a lot of mornings before my 12, 13-hour shoot. When I'm supposed to do my own work on my own acting, I was going to the store and I was rehearsing in my head. So at the same time, also respect what David said. He said, when the set is so small, in such a small shooting area, the few people there, the better, because you can hear everybody breathing. So that's the way he liked to work. So I kind of respect that because all those small things I did by myself, and it was very exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you do what you got to do. You make those errands like with what you have. If you have an extra hand on set, you have them do stuff. But yeah, I mean, you make work with what you do, and that's a smart thing. Like I would rather have less people than more people, especially when it comes to noise and you're in an enclosed environment. Just being cramped, you know, I get like claustrophobic, you know, being around too many people in a small area, you know.
Now I do want to talk about the not so good surprise of post-production fees, because people think that making a movie, and I thought this too. I learned everything the hard way. I thought that, okay, $10,000 to shoot it, maybe $3,000 for post production, done. You know, no, that's where the 20K came in.
Yes. Oh, totally. Yeah, because you have editing, you've got sound, you've got color correction, you've got the sound surround sound, you have Foley.
This is so much work and so much detail, and you know, and you want to pay that little extra then, because now you have a project that's decent, but you realize you need great audio, you need good editing, you need the color correction.
Yeah, you can't skimp out on those things. You know, it's tough where like my latest project, Bachelor Party episode 2, we had someone that was doing these effects and was doing color correction and sound. And I'm like, hey, send me some stuff of the scene, send me whatever you have, and I'll plug them in because I was editing the movie. She's like, okay. And then she never sent anything. Long story short, she just dropped out and ghosted us. We had, I was actually, it was funny, I was looking at the text where like, for whatever reason, the Bachelor Party episode 2 was the toughest. Well, one, it was a terrible weekend, but it was really tough. It was tough to get people to go to the premiere. No one wanted to go, or no one could go for whatever reason. Most of the actors couldn't show up. The main couple guys that, you know, that were part of it could, and that was cool, and some of our friends. But I mean, we still packed the theater about 75% probably. But for the first one, we packed. You know, it was a packed house, and then RIDESHARE was full as well.
That was so cool. Yeah, it was like a party in there.
Wasn't that incredible? That was incredible. That was like, yeah, that was one of the best nights of my life. Like, I mean, movie premieres alone, like for RIDESHARE was one of the best nights of my life. Like Bachelor Party movie premiere was one of the best nights of my life. Bachelor Party 2, like we came off, you know, and I ended up doing everything. I did the color correction, sound, audio, but that's not my specialty, but I can do it type thing. And like insane, like up 40 out of the, you know, or, you know, 45 out of the last 48 hours up into the premiere. Like, and so by the time we even got to the premiere, it's like, I just kind of wanted to sleep and, you know, but I still partied, you know, and still had fun, but like, you know, there's so many different avenues that go into this, and you can't skip out. And if you have someone else doing one of those things, if I had someone doing those effects, if the effects girl actually did her damn job and I wouldn't have had any of that. There wouldn't have had any of the problems, and the movie would have looked a lot better. But again, like, you know, you work through these problems and you solve the problems and you do what you got to do, and you always get thrown a curveball every single day. I'm part of this movie set group on Facebook, and there was this meme. It was like, oh, me thinking about how set is, you know, me reminiscing about how set was, and it's like this beautiful little candle inside like a beautiful like container, and then it's like how set really was like, and it was a dumpster fire, like, you know. so
you know, it's so funny because with all the hard work that it was and all the pain in the ass, the post-production for me was more pain in the ass for raising the money and working my ass off myself, because I don't have that technical side. I don't have those skills. Me and my ex-boyfriend, we were trying to do the editing a little bit on our own, but I just don't have that technical instinct in me at all, you know. At the end of the day, now I'm just so happy it's over, and I'm actually kind of glad that the whole release of the movie will happen during the pandemic, so there won't be any premiere, because I'm just so over it. But then on the other side of me, it's like dying to start a new one. It's like you become addicted to making movies, because everybody tells you, well, wait starting the next one till you start making money on this or whatever. But you know, it's like you're like, no, well, now I finished it almost, so now it's time to start another one, you know.
That's the thing. Like, I think you got bit big time by this bug. Is like, it's a beautiful terrible but amazing and awesome, rewarding bug. And that's the thing, is like, you realize the 6 days of production, the weeks and months of pre-production, the months and months of post-production, all the hell that you went through, all the great times, all the bad times, it's all worth it, because at the end of the day, you have something to show, and no one can take that away from you. No one can take that movie. 20 years from now, you could look back like, that was my first movie. I remember I was there on set, and all that pain, all that agony, it's there. You know, you have it. You have something, and no one can take that away from you. It's not like we said, like, hey, I was in the coal mines for 10 weeks and it was a horrible traumatic event, but it's like, you can't like bring the coal back. I don't know, it's a terrible analogy, but like, you can't, you know, it's like that work you did, that's the beauty about it. You do it once, right? You do all this, you do a ton of work, but you only do it once, right? Until you do a ton of work again and make another one again. You know?
For me also, and I will tell this also, because it's kind of fun inside scoop, and you know this also. Actually, I had a romantic breakup because of the movie. That also stopped my post-production flow, because it's basically when personal things happen, it can also affect your movie. So in my case, I went from having the best relationship, like, wow, you slut, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of acting you do, you know? And female actors, and I'm saying this because most actors do some kind of intimacy thing at some point, and it doesn't mean anything necessarily per se. But
I love the necessarily per se, like, because we can get more into that in a moment.
Well, you know, I mean, it means something to the movie, to the project, and in that moment, the other actor, but then it's done. You know, like it's really hard to explain, but it's like also, how do you explain that you can get so into crying and into like being happy or whatever? It's like just like something actors do. So yeah, so I went through a lot for this movie. I sacrificed a lot of time working for it. I put everything I had into it, and also I lost, you know, it was the beginning of the end of my current relationship. But at the same time, now at least I have my movie.
Yeah, that's right. At least you have the movie. No, your movie can't break up with you, right? Like, you know,
Exactly.
well, that is a tough thing. And like, you know, for you as an actress, like, have you been on the opposite end of the spectrum? Like, if you've dated an actor, have you had the actor friend like have a love scene with another woman? And like, how did you deal with those types of feelings?
I had actually 2 actor boyfriends, and well, one of them only played a detective in the cop, really, and the other one, you know, but but I did see some scenes where he was into the other, but I look upon it differently. And it's also, of course, I don't really want to get into it and analyze that scene, but at the same time, it is what it is, you know?
Do you get a little bit jealous, or are you just like, whatever, if he's playing a role, like, it's not a big deal?
You know, I think it's just a part of that particular business, but it's also, again, are you hanging out with that actor beyond, or are you like, I mean, this, you know, or was it just like that one day on set and then it's done? You know, it also depends on how you act with that person, of course. But I haven't had any reasons to be upset before. A lot of people cannot handle it, so it's no judgment, and I'm not trying to talk bad or down upon somebody else, because it's just like, it's not for everybody to date an actor, because you're putting yourself in situations like that occasionally. And for me, it means nothing. Like in your movie too, it was, you know, making out with somebody getting choked out, you know.
Yeah.
It's gotten into you. I like it.
Listen,
You did, yeah. You did really. You know, you took one for the team. You were a champ. You know, no, you were very professional. And yeah, I mean,
I don't mind that stuff, because, but I can see how that could be a problem for somebody. But you know, so this was a very sad case, and it happened for me. But at the same time, again, you got to sacrifice sometimes for your art. But relationships aside, you know, like I think that passion for art, your drive, your calling to do something, sometimes it goes beyond, you know?
I played this like really sleazy, dastardly villain in the Bachelor Party episode 2. And he's like complete like male chauvinist guy, like, you know, just has these women around him and stuff like that. But it's like, I find it's funny. I mean, I don't think that, I was talking to Madeleine about her character in RIDESHARE, where that was the toughest role to cast, because these actresses say like, well, I don't want people to think that I'm a bitch, you know?
You as a white, privileged male should know that that is very offensive to some people.
And it's like, you're playing a freaking character, you know? It's like whether you're in a love scene or whether you're playing a bitch or a murderer, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's like, yes, you're obviously not a freaking murderer, but like you don't turn down a role for that reason, you know what I mean? Like, because
That's what people don't get is that actors transform. Yes, you bring yourself to a role, you know, of course, so your role becomes unique for you, but at the same time, you're absolutely not that person. So like I said, Madeline's the sweetest girl. She's not a bitch, but she played a bitch, you know?
yes, yeah, and she said I love playing it.
Cool.
It was like she said she had so much fun with it, and she played it really well. And like a lot of people like get a lot of satisfaction from that scene because like, oh, she's a bitch, and then, you know, spoiler alert, she, you know, her character gets killed. But that's the beauty of a film. It's like you don't want to have these like weak characters where it's like I'm the bad guy in Bachelor Party Part 2. Yes, because I'm the bad guy. He should be bad doing bad things. Like he should be, you know, like he betrays his best friend or whatever. And like that's the whole point of it. You want to have these characters that people love to
Right.
hate, or they love to love, or they're like it's escapism, you know. And that was fun.
Because I think also as a filmmaker, I am making parts for myself where I'm not necessarily like, where you're not necessarily all like a great person, you know, but that's what whole acting and theater and like entertainment, like films are about, you know. So yeah, people can't take it too serious, you know.
And that's the fun of it. It's like you could play whatever you want. You know, you could be an alien from Jupiter. You know what I mean?
You played a homeless person, right, Jen, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah. So, you know, so
And
it's
that's
like
actually that's actually how I wanted you to audition for my movie, because I was like, you know, he's a filmmaker, but he also was really good in his own movie, even though it was just for a split second, you know?
wow. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
That kind of inspires me to want to do more.
Yes, absolutely. You're a very good actor. And your part was initially written for a woman. I wanted a lesbian couple, but you did so good. I was like, well, we'll make Emilio, you know?
I love it. Yeah, I was Emilio.
Also,
Yeah.
I like having your friends as actors on set because they respect the whole process more, I think, you know, because like yourself, you know, and a couple other filmmakers today, you know, respect the process fully, you know?
Yeah, and that was awesome. I mean, I had so much respect for you, like making your movie and at your location and getting the whole crew and doing it in the short time you did it. I mean, and I know what that's like. And I there were times I'm like, man, I'm, you know, no offense, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not Elisabeth right now, you know, but at the same time, it's like, you know, it's like I've been that, and actually part of me loves all that stuff, when all the chaos, everyone's asking you a million questions, and you know, you're the decision maker.
You know, that's the thing. Like, you know, it's like it's great and it's bad at the same time, you know. But I think what's very important is that I really felt at this point in my life there was nothing to lose, and also I asked myself a million times, do I want to quit acting? Do I want to get into something else? I tried. I don't want to. So, okay, well, in that case, I got to think outside the box, because going on auditions, you don't even go on auditions. So how are you going to get those parts? And when you do, it doesn't really work out. You get depressed. And, you know, this was the only option for me. Make my own movie. And I love it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like you said it, like when you know you have that feeling, like, hey, I'm going to, you know, I feel this feels right. This feels good. This feels like, I've always known. It's like before I made the movie, I knew I was going to make the movie, but it's like to other people, I'm not sure if you experienced this, but when you're sharing it, you know, I would share, oh yeah, I'm making RIDESHARE, I'm making this movie. And they're like, oh, that's cool. That's cute. Is it like a short film? Is it like 2 minutes long? Is it like, you know, like, oh, that's kind of cute. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like, no. And then, you know, then they see RIDESHARE, they're like, oh, it's a movie. It's actually a movie. And I'm like, yes, that's what I've been trying to tell you guys.
Everybody asks me that. Is it a short film? How long? Wow, it's a full feature. I'm like, yeah. And again, that goes back to what we spoke about earlier, because now at this point in my life, I'm a little more business oriented. Short films are great. It's a wonderful way to expose, to promote your talent, to get to showcase yourself. And it's a great way to get out there and also to potentially raise money for a feature. But financially, you're not going to sell and distribute a movie and have people watch it the same way as a feature. So you might as well, in my opinion, just go for the full thing, you know?
100%. When filmmakers say, "Oh yeah, I'm raising money for my short film," I just like I grimace. I like a part of me. I'm like, oh no. It's like it takes so much work. Like you said, it takes so much work to make any movie. I think it takes more work to make a short film. You know, if you're trying to raise budgets and you're trying to do that, then it would be to make a feature, because at least for me in my experience, like no one gets excited about a short film. Like if I, you know what I mean? Like somebody was like, "You're making a short film." I was like, "Okay, that's great. Congratulations. I never want to watch it." You know?
That's level of respect at all, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, look, I've seen some award-winning short films that are really cool. And like, hey, I'm sure, you could change you could change the paradigm in a short film. Like, you could expose like the food industry or something crazy, but like nothing like a feature film. Like when you have it and people are like, "Oh my God, you're making a feature film." Like, wow,
All my years, I was only in acting class. I was all about the craft and the arts, and I didn't even care about being a movie set. For me, it was just about working on the script and going inside of myself. So I'm very much the actor's actor. But now at this point, I'm like, okay, you worked in bars long enough, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You want to make this into a career, you got to think possibly across it. There is literally, I'm not going to discourage anybody to make a short film. I think it's absolutely wonderful if you do. But I'm at the age and at the stage where I want to see something in return possibly, at least have the opportunity open for that. So for me, there was no option, and also short films, I never really been that into them myself.
Same.
I watched them at me, but I'm not going to Google short films, you know what I mean? So
no, I don't like, I hate short film. I hate them. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm editing this podcast and I had to clarify something. I do hate most short films, not all short films. That being said, I still support friends making their first short film, or they're working hard and spreading a particular message. I still support them. I've contributed to some Kickstarters or some GoFundMes and stuff. So do support short films. And especially if you're a first-time filmmaker, it's better that you spend a little bit of money on a little movie than you spend a lot of money on a big movie if you've never done any little movies before. So you kind of have to graduate your way up. But don't spend too much money on your short film. Don't spend too much time in your short film. Just get a good story, make it a limited budget, limited location. But I do hate most short films because most of them are really depressing. Not many of them are funny. Not many of them have a good message. I have seen some stellar short films, but vast majority of the short films that I've seen are absolutely hot garbage, including some of the ones that I've made myself, especially when I was first starting out. I made these like overly dramatic, dude, they're just terrible. You don't want to spend any money on your, especially your first short films. Don't spend any money on it. Just grab a camera, grab friends, and have fun. Now back to the podcast. Let's talk more about Heart of the Home. And let's tell me more about your character and the story of the movie.
Okay, so, life always throws you lemons one way or another. And I think also the best movies are a little bit more or less inspired by real events. Now, of course, the person in real life didn't kill anybody, but let's just put it out there,
That's good. That's good. Yes, that's relieving.
But the whole message behind the movie is very simple. Google your roommates. And I know it sounds simple, but a lot of people don't, like myself. I was like, oh, just get another roommate. Oh, she seems nice, which was your line of by the way.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't have a contract. So in real life, this is what happened. And I lived in a Japanese, apartment with very nice people. And one moved out, and another one came in. And called it a stereotype, but I expected her to be sweet and innocent, like most people from that country are, Mm-hmm. But she's quite unstable, and all the dialogue in the movie is based on reality. And some of them
there's some intense dialogue, guys. Like, yeah. So this is like
dark humor. It's just like, but it's also like, what the fuck? This person is like so annoying, like the whole movie is just like most. But this is what happened in real life, So in that sense, it's a cool movie that it was shot in the location where it happened, so the energy of that person, like. And the whole thing was happening there.
Oh, and that was the location where we filmed it? That's where it happened?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, I'm glad you didn't tell me that because, well, I could have, I acted obviously as if it was, but like, I didn't know that was the place too. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was a lot of like funny stuff, and also old cars in that movie, and the girl who was who used to live with me back then, this was her car, and then my movie, the girl who plays my other roommate is sitting in that car. So I had, and I believe in energies and stuff. So it was like the energy of the actual thing, you know. And and I will tell you something cool, which happened 2 weeks before. I think it was more 2 or 3 weeks before I shot the movie. I came home from work one night, and the actual person in the movie, there's a scene where there's a letter on my refrigerator that she wrote to me. You know, she's gonna call immigration on me and all that stuff.
Oh my gosh. Oh geez. It's no big deal. I'm gonna call immigration on you. Don't worry about it.
But the actual letter that she wrote came from underneath the stove. And I had forgotten about it. I was like, dang. And I asked my current roommate, did you use this clean on the stove? Did you use it? Or did you see this? No. So, you know what? I'm not here to start any conspiracy or any crazy, like, supernatural stories, but this actually happened. And I showed it to the actor. She's like, oh my God, she's crazy. I'm like, yeah, I made a horror movie.
Do you still have the note? Did you take a picture of it at least?
I still have the original note, yeah. And
oh
so,
my gosh.
And then again, like I said earlier, I kept changing the movie, like, throughout. So then, towards the end, so like I changed the scene where I put actually more or less a copy of the actual original letter in the movie. Yeah, so a lot of cool
that is awesome.
Was totally meant to be, you know?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. Especially with a note where it's like, oh, you're probably like, oh, it was thrown away. It was, it's long gone. And then it magically kind of appears. Like, I think that's kind of something where when you had that thing where you're like, this was such an intense experience. This would make a great movie. How did you approach like this real life experience? Because were you hesitant about doing it? Are you afraid she might watch this?
I did like I did in the movie, which my character does, which is basically go and fuck yourself. I'm excuse me for the language, but
no, you're fine. You can guess. It's fine.
Okay. The horror movie, there's normally the victim. I am not a victim of the movie, and I think this is also what makes this movie interesting because it's two strong people fighting with each other, so it's like a power play. So instead of it being me like scared, I was scared, and I'm showing this in the movie too, but I'm hiding my fears in, being strong also. Because in reality too, I was scared, but at the same time, who the hell do you think you are causing all this stupid, ridiculous drama, So so my movie character was very much like me, also how I reacted. And I initially the script was written for me being a little bit more in fear, but then I said, you know what, screw this, I'm not a fearful I wasn't scared in real life. I'm two sides of her, first of all, and and like I even say in the movie, it's like, okay, you want to challenge mental illness, you might come across crazy, but we all have crazy sides in us, so push me hard enough, honey.
Yeah, totally. Well, and that's the thing, is like certain people bring certain emotions out of other people. It's like if you've ever been in the room with someone that you're just rubs you the wrong way for whatever reason, like. And
and especially this also, I always live by myself in apartments in New York City, beautiful big apartments. I'm at a different stage in my life. I came to LA to start anew. I dematerialized. This is other personal stuff, but anyways, I ended up living in this tiny apartment with no personal space, and all I want really is peace and focus on my career. And you coming in here being a maniac about the most ridiculous things, like the heat is not on, and measured my room, like, oh, you pay less rent than me, and I'm like, oh my God, like really like pathetic, stupid stuff, and also yelling at me, and I think this is actually comedic, that I'm a liar because I promised this was going to be a quiet house, but she heard me talk on the phone, like stuff like this, which to me seems like, really,
Right. It's like, well, yeah, it's a quiet house, but it's not a freaking library. It's like you can talk on the phone, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and in real life also, the whole story ended kind of dramatic. The landlord had to fake evict us, and she just she was just like crazy, right?
Wait, so the landlord fake evicted you guys? So like she legitimately evicted her, but didn't evict you?
Yeah, to fake evict us, because that's the thing. If you don't have a on the lease than anything else. So anyway, so everything was based on, in real life, this gave me such a headache, but at the same time, it was comedy, you know, like just like a lot of tragic things in life. And when she moved out, I told my friends, this is so going to be like a horror movie. Great concept, the Japanese female killer, the Hello Kitty killer, I said, you know, but a lot of it is really based off that actual event that happened. And I figured because I'm still in the same place, there's probably a reason for that, you know. And you know, this is a good starter, and it's a good topic because it's I think horror is a great way to start. I do want to make my next movie is horror also, and then I'm going to go more into drama, which is more, you know, I will always have comedy because I always in all my darkness in my personal life I always find the humor in it. So my dramas will have a comedy, my horrors will have comedy, my comedies will have, you know, drama and horror. So that's just how I am.
That's awesome because like I hate dramas where everyone's super serious the whole time, and it's like that's just not real life, you know. It's like no one, even at like a funeral, there's like funny things that happen, you know. It's so. And
just look at what's happening now. It's a pandemic, right? People are dying. We're in fear. We don't know, but we're creating all these memes and we're laughing our asses off about toilet paper because we got to deflect, right? So I think that's just a part of life. You got to find the humor and the lightness and the darkness sometimes, but. The nice thing about horror movie, and you mentioned that also in podcast, and I was like, you know, that's exactly how I'm thinking. There is not that much high expectation. Nobody needs to see our name attached to a horror movie. Actually, we don't want to see stars because we want to see the person it could actually happen to, you know?
Yes, 100%. Yes. And that's why it's like, for a first-time filmmaker, you have this forgiveness from the audience. You don't have to have a huge star. You have the genre sells itself. Like people want to see murder or whatever.
And people like all kinds of horror. Like I think you mentioned it too. And we always connect about that. Hitchcock is one of my favorites. I don't necessarily need to see a lot of blood. I like more the suspense. You know, that's my type of horror. People just love horror, and it's a huge market for it. So I wanted to create something that people will like. I thought the idea of a female Japanese killer, you know, it's fun. And it's also a neat situation with the roommate thing because it's very relatable. Most people have had a roommate at that point, and often, like in my case, didn't know really anything about them except from, hey, cool cat or cool guy, you know? That's all, you know? So, and a lot of people had issues with their roommates. Can you believe that after I shot this movie, I had a photo shoot, and the stylist was like, oh my God, I can't believe you made a movie about that. I had a roommate who tried to poison me. I'm like, you know, so all of a sudden you hear.
Wait, they tried to do what? He had a roommate that tried to do what?
He had a roommate who tried to poison her.
What? Oh
so
my gosh.
I know. So I guess things do happen. So I think a lot of people can relate. If not nothing else, to the fear of, just like with rideshare. Whoa, Uber driver. I mean, we go into Ubers all the time. Roommates, we have roommates all the time. And not only was it about the people in the apartment, but just people in the building. Just in my building, there's a ton of people having roommates.
Totally. You know? And that's the thing is like, that's what makes it horrifying for me, because it's like, I could relate to it. You know, you can relate to it. People can relate to, you know, having crazy roommates or being in an apartment complex where there's wacky people. I lived in an apartment complex in Culver City. Every person at the place was their own character. And like, we had one lady that was like, she was like, yeah, I'm making soap in the microwave and can I sell it on eBay? Like all these like wacky things. Like this other woman was like a hoarder, and she was she had this stray cat, but she was deathly allergic to cats. And then she lost her cat one time, and she's like knocking on my door at like 10:30 at night, and she's like, hey, where's Kit Kat? Where's Kit Kat? And I'm like, sorry, like what are you talking about? She's like, Kit Kat. I'm like, oh, the cat that you have? Like she's like, yeah, it's gone. She's gone. She's like, somebody should call animal control. It's like, why don't you call animal control? Like, can't you use my phone? She's like, no, it's a holiday. It's a holiday. Oh, what kind of holiday is this? So it was like, I think she was Orthodox or something, and she couldn't use electricity or whatever. And then she goes like, well, do you know why I call her Kit Kat? I'm like, I don't know. Like, you like Kit Kat bars? I don't know. And she's like, because when I got her, I didn't know if she was a kitten or if she was a cat. So I called her Kit Kat. It's like stuff like this. Like, you cannot write this stuff. I could not write this stuff in a million years. I couldn't think about that.
How you saying that? Because the stuff, the dialogue in Heart of the Home is stuff you can't write. You can't make that stuff up because it's so like quirky and so unique and different, you know? But that was the dialogue that actually went down. But also what I did for other scenes, I put that were a little bit more fictionalized. I put things from my own life, comments and things that I've heard in there, you know? But another thing, about half of the people that I've spoken to since I shot this movie did not know that you can actually not predict the squad or somebody you don't have a contact. They did not know that. So people are ignorant about it. And also, like, that's the thing about the movie is that, you know, it can be a bigger story, but this movie is about me, my little universe, my little world. It's like you, Tremaine, have your own little universe, and somebody else has their own little universe. And you're living this peaceful thing, and all of a sudden, somebody insane is coming into your personal space, and you can't get rid of it. And that's actually, so that's what the fear is. You know, what's so crazy, because it can happen to anybody.
Yeah, totally. That gives me the shivers and the chills just like thinking about it. Because when you're stuck with them, and especially if you have a year lease or a multiple year lease or something, it's like, oh, I have to get out. Like when you feel stuck or you're with these people, it's like you have to just get the hell out. So yeah, I think you went about it the right way too, because you took the real stuff, but you also like created your own story out of it, and
absolutely. There's a lot of fiction in the story also. And the next film I'm making actually has a symbolic undertone that is true to my life and things I have experienced, but the whole movie is practically fiction. And the following movie that I'm actually starting to write myself now is more or less only real life. So, you know, you can yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. Wow, that's really cool. That's really exciting. Gosh, you already have 2 more movies in the works. Well, yeah, like you said, I mean, it is like this addiction, but storytelling, I mean, hey, this is so cool that you're drawing these experiences from real life and sharing these stories. And Heart of the Home, I can't wait to see that movie. And you know, but we know, hey, it's your first movie, and you know, and know that there's going to be more. And what would you say for another filmmaker if they're afraid to make their movie and they're thinking, well, this is something that I always thought. I'm like, what if my movie sucks? Like, you know, a lot of always like, what if my movie sucks? Like, what do I do?
That's very important, because the reason I did this movie, I mean, of course, like I said, I want to showcase myself and I hope to make a profit. Those are the things that, of course, I'm hoping for that, but I really did this for myself. This was a personal thing that I wanted to prove to myself and my parents. You know, my dad, who's still alive and very successful artist, and also my mom, who passed away, who's in heaven. I wanted to do something for them. So this is, and my dad saw the movie, he saw the rough cut before music, and he loved it, so I'm good.
Wow,
I don't need any other critics. He loved the stories, and he loved my acting, and he was very proud of me. That's the only recognition that I need. I'm doing this for my own artistic expression. Take it or leave it. I would love for people to love the movie. I would love it to become a blockbuster. But if nobody else besides my close friends and family and the actors and it watch it, then, you know, so be it. Like, moving on to that. You know,
that's the best way to approach it. People are going to praise you. You can't let that get to your head, and people are going to chastise you. You can't let that get you down. And I think that's why it's something where you're making it for you. And if, as long as you're happy and other people are happy, even if no one else is happy, you know, or even if your dad wasn't happy, you know, it's like you still have to.
Myself, and also the way I looked upon it was that I have seen so many horrible productions in my life, and I've been a part really bad one. So I figured, but you know what? I give everybody credit for trying their best, you know? So everybody's putting out so much crap out there and like honoring it, but you know what? I can't do that much work, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have to say, hey, if they could do it, and you know, I think I could do better. Like I was saying earlier, like you see a crappy film and you see you're part of this project that was horribly run or whatever, like, okay, I know I could do better. If I'm going to be part of something that sucks, it might as well be my own project, you know? But
you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. It's the same thing with acting, you know? I look back at some films that I did like 10 years ago, but the acting was pretty good, but it still lacked something, because I did study for many years after that, and I did also get more life experience, and you know, I just became more confident in life in general. You gotta just forgive yourself a little bit. I think for other makers that have just put your ego aside, just do your best. And you know, and also one thing I really want to emphasize on, I am lucky that I have the gift of storytelling, and also when I was a kid, I would write books to my friends. I have the writing ability in me naturally. But if you
Wow.
don't, then you work with the people who have the skills that you don't have or don't have developed yet.
I think what you were saying, like when you were like, it was out of sheer ignorance that we just had 6 days, or you know, you didn't really know what you don't know, and especially with your first movie, you learned so much. But that is almost a power. That is almost a superpower, because Citizen Kane, Orson Welles was talking about when he was making Citizen Kane. I think he was like 22 years old. He was like super young, never made a movie before in his life. He did stage directing. He did a lot of acting via plays and everything, but he wanted to make this movie, and he got the attention of one of the greatest directors of photography of that time, and he wanted to work with Orson Welles. And he goes, well, why do I want to work with you? Why do you want to work with me? He goes, because you haven't made it before, because I want to see your fresh perspective, and you don't have this like all these stigmas of what, you know, sometimes if you know too much, what can go wrong, that could be working against you, you know.
And you know, also goes for people that are hired in my project. Some people are seasoned, and some people are fresh talent.
Yeah.
Like Nicole's fresh and just finished, you know, her school, but together with me, we work as a brilliant team. And also with actors. Some actors have been in tons. Some actors, this was their first movie. So, you know, but I think the combination of fresh talent and then seasoned people is just great, you know?
That is a great point. It's great to have experienced actors and people that know what they're doing. That is awesome. But it's also great to have people that are really excited, have never done a movie before, and they're like just, you know, kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, you know, and they haven't been run through the course or run through the ringer, you know. It's like there's some really jaded people that you work with sometimes. I don't know if you've experienced this, but some people are like, oh, you know, they're just like over the whole process, and that's tough working with these types of people, you know.
And also, often younger people don't have that much ego yet, and it's very difficult to work with ego, because I had one actress, for instance, she was blown away that I cast her, and then she was really good. But I thought, you're almost like, but she didn't fit for the part. The one I casted for that part was perfect. I don't care how many followers you have or how many actual big movies you've been in. If you don't fit right, you don't fit right, you know?
You know, it's really interesting. It's like in my experience, like the more talented and more famous or more followers the person has, actually the nicer they are. It's kind of funny. It's like, it's almost the opposite. The people that have the less amount of following, the less amount of, like, even if they have a good amount of talent, they have some of the biggest egos I've ever worked with.
Wow.
So
I guess there's no formula, you know?
no, there really isn't. There really isn't.
But for post-production, I for this project, I worked with very, very talented and people with a lot of working experience. But for my next project, I'm willing to try to make it difficult working with somebody a little bit fresher, just to save on the budget a little bit. So for people who are starting, I say start with what's realistic for you. You know?
Yeah, you know, I think it's like for me, it's like you can work with someone that's starting, but as long as they're hungry, as long as they want to really make it something good, you know. Sometimes if they're just starting and maybe I don't know, like I like working with people that are like really good at what they do, and sometimes they just have done it a bunch. I personally prefer that versus working with less experienced people that might not be as good. I don't know. I think if you find someone that's cheaper and is good and it doesn't have that experience, then that's definitely awesome by all means.
And also, I think it's also like, how much do you want to work with that person? Like I said, I worked with a very young and new writer, but I got to rewrite a lot. For an editor, if I was to work with a new editor, I would want to maybe participate in the process and just don't let the dollars defeat you, or like the fact that you don't have access to the people of the level where you want to start off. You know, just start off with what you have, with who you know, and then you can build your way up, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's the best advice for any filmmaker starting out, you know, that and even keeping going, you know, it's like just start with what you have, and then once you have more experience, just do what you have then, but you'll have probably more equipment, more connections, and it just really snowballs that way.
Exactly, and step back and make it a little bit lower budget, but at least keep creating and keep making, and then before you know it, you are the next Spielberg.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Elisabeth Steen-Nokleberg. That's right.
And it's great thing about making a movie, like I said before, me, I'm an actor. You wanted to be a director, so you had, but it just comes into like, you can do so much more than you think you are. I also realizing that you can always tap into different abilities and maybe initially thought that, you know?
Yeah, and you can't think of like, because people think about the title, they're like, oh, director, you know, like, oh, I could never direct a movie. It's like, well, all you have to do is really just explain yourself or explain. I mean, it is a certain talent. There is a talent involved, or like where you're actually doing work or you're kind of coaching. You could tell whether something's good acting or bad acting, but it doesn't mean that you can learn how to do it, or you can just get people that know what they're doing that are doing it. You know, it's like, you can't let that, if you don't know anything about audio, that doesn't mean that you can't do audio. It just means you get someone that knows what they're doing about audio and let them do it. Yeah, and then that's the beauty about filmmaking, is you don't have to know everything, because it's a collaborative process. It's a collaborative thing, and then the more people that are involved and they want, then that means more people at the premiere, more people want to see your work, and you know, you're going to attract more people that want to work with you that are great at what they do. So
a lot of people have already said that they would like to collaborate on something else. A lot of people do it also because they think that I can raise money. There's a lot of, everything is money oriented, but you got to just be smart and see, like, weed those out, you know, like, you know, most people, you can read situations pretty good, you know?
yeah, totally. Well, hey, we'll wrap this up. I just want to say thank you so much. This is so much fun. Elisabeth, like, you're awesome. And I cannot wait to see Heart of the Home.
Thank you so much. This is a really fun.
All right, anything else you want to say? I'm going to give you the last word.
Just thank you for having me on the show. And like I said, to all aspiring filmmakers, just take the chance, you know, life is now. Do what you, follow your dreams. Don't wait for anybody to create dreams for you. You be the dream yourself. Live the dream. Oh.
Yes, I love that. Well, you are living the dream, as am I. We're making movies. We're making it happen. You guys can do the same. Do it. Don't let anyone tell you differently, and make it happen. If you guys like this video, click that like button. If you want to see more of these videos, subscribe to see more, and also check out Elisabeth and everything that she is. I have social media links right here on the screen, and plus I'll have everything in the description below. And check out Heart of the Home, coming very soon.
Thanks so much, Tremaine.
Thank you.